At midfielder, a junior, Colin Smith. At forward, a junior, Vance Jones. A sophomore, at forward, Anson Schindler. A senior at midfielder, Jonah Craig. At defender, a senior, Lucas Greer. A junior at midfielder, Noah Hanscom. A senior at defender, Eric Ponce. A defender and senior, Elias Yari. At forward, a senior, Knight Al-Sharif. A senior and defender, Jackson Myers. A sophomore and defender, Seth Hannigan Downs. A freshman and forward, Ryan Jones. And a keeper, a sophomore, Anton Escher. Now for your home team, South Albany Redhawks. A sophomore, number 0, Mason Glenn. A junior, number 6, Brian Sanchez. A junior, number 7, Daniel Lara. A senior, number 10, Diego Martinez. A senior, number 12, Diego Ramirez. A senior, number 16, Brayden Mesa. A senior, number 17, Cameron Henning. A senior, number 18, Pedro Segura Camacho. A senior, number 19, Jose Zaragoza Perez. A junior, number 20, Chris Monroy. A senior, number 22, Bola Hubena. A sophomore, number 23, Maximo Mendoza. A junior, number 24, Levi Alvarez. A junior, number 25, Colin King. A sophomore, number 26, Yahir Lira Lencona. A junior, number 36, Ruben Alvarado Cortez. A junior, number 37, Sergio Lara. And a junior, number 77, Jose Guzman. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, please rise and move your hats as we honor our nation with the flag of our national anthem.
Well, hi everybody, and welcome into South Albany High School for a Mid-Willamette Conference matchup of two unbeaten teams. The Corvallis Spartans on the road to face the South Albany Redhawks. Thanks for watching Oregon Sports Beat. Alongside your color commentator, Tony Vandermeer, I'm Josh Worden with the play-by-play tonight between South Albany and Corvallis. Real quick, we want to mention our sponsors, including Shirt Circuit, making these broadcasts possible to get Mid-Willamette Conference soccer on the airwaves alongside CrossFit. Our thanks to Shirt Circuit and CrossFit, as well as Synergy Solutions. Thanks to all these three businesses. Also, Northwest Dental, offering our community unique personalized care and a relaxed and safe environment. That's Northwest Dental. And finally, Even Flow Plumbing is a family-owned and operated company providing quick, reliable services from minor plumbing repairs and drain cleaning to whole house repipes in the Mid-Willamette Valley area. Please call 541-738-8853 for all your plumbing needs. That's Even Flow Plumbing. All right, well, we are just about ready for Corvallis and South Albany. Undefeated teams, albeit very different records. Corvallis 4-0, South Albany 0-3. 3 ties so far this season. They played decently, still getting their chemistry and getting some more games under their belt. But this will be a really interesting matchup, Tony, for multiple reasons. We've got fans in the stands, formation changes. We'll get into all that. But what are kind of your initial thoughts coming into Corvallis versus South Albany tonight?
There's a ton of excitement on my part just to see two squads. Both teams I've formerly coached, but on a sunny day to get some fans out in the stands and have the players pretty motivated. These two clubs have battled pretty hard over the years, and so I'm expecting some pretty high energy, and interesting to see the tactical change that's going to be put in here and see how Corvallis responds to what South Albany is up to tonight.
You are very familiar both of these programs, having coached at both schools, and then 2 goals apiece in those respective matchups, coming off that 2-2 tie with CV. Corvallis also having recently played Crescent Valley, their crosstown rivals, a 2-1 victory for the Spartans in that one. Corvallis also has wins over Central 4-1, West Albany 1-0 in that one, and most recently a 6-1 victory over Lebanon. We are underway at South Albany High School. Thanks for joining us on Oregon Sports Beat. Now, tactical changes, Tony, a bit of a formation adjustment today for Sam Tweeton and this South Albany squad, moving to a 4-4-2 formation. Started this year more in a 3-4-3. What do you see the pros and cons of that change being tonight?
I think defensively, I mean, you have an extra defender going from a 3-4-3 to that 4-4-2. So I think Sam's probably just concerned about the wing play that Corvallis has shown in those first 4 victories, and making sure his flanks are covered while trying to match up, 4 midfielders and even on the flank and the middle third of the field, just defending those as strongly as they can.
I talked with Sam about that earlier today. He said main impetus for that change, just kind of cleaning up some chances we've given up, feel better defensively in a 4-4-2, also just making sure we get our best 11 on the field. Kind of provides that opportunity. Long diagonal pass from Jonah Craig, a bit over the head of John, and the edge goes out of bounds for the Corvallis forward. But for South Albany going to a 4-4-2, when he said I want the best 11 on the field, I asked him, well, which 11 will that be? Is there an adjustment of a guy who will be starting that didn't normally in the previous formation? And he pointed out that Daniel Martinez being the main one who will start for this South Albany squad.
And Sam, Coach Tweeton has Daniel paired up in the midfield with Chris Monroy. So those two, I'm not so sure they've played together in that middle hole together quite a bit. But Daniel has been dealing with some injuries and whatnot and not been able to play. So, yeah, getting your top 11 in there, and sometimes it does, you do got to come up with a different situation or system to get your players in their best spots.
Long pass from Eric Ponce on one side, one of the captains for this Corvallis squad. Speaking of the changes for South Albany, perhaps Sam Tweeton feels some better defensive structure for this Redhawks team. In terms of what it opens up for Corvallis, is there a particular player from the Spartans who you could see now becomes even more of a focal point than before based on how South Albany will play?
Yeah, I think at this level, with Corvallis having four wins and a couple of them being pretty comfortable, I think they're just going to be about what they normally do, and they probably won't overreact to a system change or a tactical switch on South's part. I do see, as you see, the flanks are getting defended well in the first few possessions for Corvallis. I think Corvallis with their 3 central midfielders, it'll highlight maybe Jonah Craig being able to have even more of an influence than he normally does. But having said that, you know, Sam Tweeden's not he knows what he's talking about. So he's probably accounted to that his 2 center midfielders might get outnumbered at times. So my hunch is he's going to have maybe one of the forwards drop in to pester Jonah a little bit.
Daniel Martinez missed the first couple games for South Albany. Came off the bench last game. Those are 3 games in the books for the Red Hawks. So now he's making his first start of the season. Is Daniel Martinez. Jonah Craig, the one you mentioned, a senior midfielder. Corvallis tested in the back row for the Spartan team and booed away by Max Kelly. Our 2 goalkeepers tonight. Corvallis holds 1 goalkeeper all game in most typical fashion. That all actually left the premises here in South Albany. Max Kelly, the keeper, all night long for Corvallis in that black jersey. Meanwhile, South Albany flips their keepers at halftime. They've got Mason Glenn in the net and will likely switch to Jose Guzman in the second half. So those are your 2 keepers for the opening of this match. Just 5 minutes into this one, 4.5 I should say. Scoreless so far. Mauricio Nieves Bernal with possession. He's also similar to Martinez, a guy who missed the early part of the year, has come back and played a pivotal role for this Corvallis squad. Martinez for South Albany. But Mauricio Nieves Bernal, the only player with multiple goals this season for Corvallis. Not that they haven't scored a lot, it's just everybody's gotten 1 pretty much. I think it's 11 goal scorers across their 13 goals. Mauricio has 3. Nobody has 2.
Yeah, I didn't get a list of the scores, so they did get a healthy score against Lebanon the other day. So my hunch is Chad did get a chance to get some younger players in there as well.
Yeah, 6-1 the final there. The various goal scorers for Corvallis this season: 3 for Mauricio, but then you got 1 for all of the following players: Kellen Filker, Gus Lursak, Joe Nunez, Vance John, Anson Schimmel, Jesus Pulido, Lucas Greer, Eric Ponce, Knight Al-Sharif, Ryan John as well. So 13 goals by 11 different players. And Jonah Craig is not even one of them. Perhaps the best midfielder in this conference, or at least one of the best midfielders. So at some point or another, I wouldn't be surprised if Jonah found the net, but a very good distributor is the team captain. Corvallis just possessing it back and forth and waiting for South Albany to stab at it. The Red Hawks do win possession, we give it right back.
The game we're what 6-7 minutes into the game, Josh, and for me it feels like it's got the markings of kind of a typical game that I've gotten used to over the years. I think last year Corvallis put a little bit of a thumping on South Albany over in Corvallis, but this game right here feels like the teams are evenly matched, and South Albany is pretty focused on their game plan and shutting down some of the possession that we've seen out of Corvallis those first 4 games.
Yeah, you brought up last year's rivalry matchup between these 2 programs. I say rivalry, even though more typical fashion, it's Corvallis and Crescent Valley with the rivalry in South and West Albany. But this has been a healthy soccer rivalry. 2 programs who have been of late 2 of the better teams in this conference. And last year, you and I, Tony, were there over at Corvallis High School. I believe it was over at CHS for that match. And both of these teams are on hot streaks coming into that game, kind of in the upper echelon of the conference. They were both riding 4-game win streaks into this matchup a year ago. Well, Corvallis ended up blanking South Albany 6-0 in that match. Just kind of came out of nowhere. And I remember looking at that score this week and saying, wow, 6-0. That's, even now it still surprises me. I mentioned that to Chad Foley, but man, 6-0. He said, yeah, I kind of forgot about that also. Kind of reminded of that this week when preparing to play for them. Feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, calendar-wise, it was a long time ago.
It was.
We've got a pandemic in between.
Yep.
And also I think it's a function that typically a game like that, coaches kind of throw that away pretty quickly and say that was pretty funky. I'm not so sure how that got away from South Albany, or how Corvallis was to be so dominant. But as we see here, the game is settling into a nice back and forth battle at this point.
Play from Joe Nunez to take up a lot of space before Jonah Craig tries to facilitate. South Albany working in tandem defensively early on and limiting any chances. No shots on goal for either team to this point. Speaking of this matchup between these two programs, mentioned Corvallis winning 6-0 last year. Go back a couple of years in 2018, South Albany winning 1-0 in that matchup. Only loss for Corvallis all year long for that state championship program in 2018. Jonah Craig wants to take a shot for Ryan John. Into the box, and both players go tumbling. A whistle that'll go against Corvallis. Diego Ramirez with the defense for the Redhawks.
That was an interesting battle. I have two physical athletes like that. One a very experienced senior, Diego Ramirez, and the freshman John running him down. I'm surprised that there wasn't a foul called earlier in that play, but it was a good battle between those two.
A header from John. To right back to Corvallis with Mauricio Nieves Bernal. It pounds it off the shoulder of Vova Hubenya, one of the South Albany long line of Hubenyas in this program. Igor, his older brother, went on to play at Corbin, and there's at least a few others. It's a big family.
Yeah, I had a chance to coach two of his older brothers, as well as Coach Vova. He was in the squad a couple of years ago when these two teams, we met in semifinals over at Corvallis High School. And Vova was a sophomore playing. I'm not too shy. I tell people Vova might be my favorite Hubenya. Great family, great kids. And he's had a great career here at South Albany.
Family chock full of soccer players, but not 100% soccer players. Vova has a younger brother at South who's a talented athlete, but a tennis player. Sam Tweeten says, I'm trying to get him to play soccer, but he's sticking with tennis. Here's Eric Ponce into the box to Mauricio Nieves Bernal. Go near post through the arms of Glenn. Mauricio Nieves Bernal, his fourth goal of the season, and Corvallis leads 1-0.
That was a crisp counterattack on the Spartans' part. Nieves Bernal, I was going to mention they were kind of keeping an eye on him against Crescent Valley last week. Chad was really impressing on Nieves Bernal to get forward. He's in that attacking midfield slot, but he's awful close up to that front line. And he found a way to get wide left and get away from his mark and get played through for a great finish.
Corvallis moving their outside backs up a lot. And Eric Ponce was the last one to touch it prior to Mauricio Nieves Bernal. Made that long pass. And even though he's a defender, I mean, the spot that Ponce made that pass from was so far ahead of midfield. I mean, he was in an attacking position already just to make that pass, let alone where it ended up near the edge of the box already. You can tell Corvallis playing very aggressively with their outside backs.
Yeah, and that's probably a point of emphasis as a reaction to the 4-4-2 is to get some pressure from the flanks, even though South Albany is so committed to trying to shut that down. A battle of wills, so to speak.
Corvallis brings Joe Nunez over to the left wing. They put Anson Schimmel on the right winger, so moving some pieces around for Corvallis after the goal, with Mauricio Nieves Bernal notching his fourth goal of the season, having missed the first couple matches and still easily leading this team in goals scored this season. Long ball for Hubenya, comes back to win it and may tie this ball game up. Vova Hubenya sprints out the Corvallis defense. It's 1-1.
So great reaction from South Albany. So that goal feels a little bit similar to what the goal Crescent Valley was able to get towards the end of the game against Corvallis. And it was one of those, there's some pressure, so just bang the ball upfield, and again, the back line got outrun. Vova showed great pace on that one.
It looked like he was beat to the ball, and the defender had good position, but Hubenya just ran out in front of him, got to the ball, and both times the ball has not been, it wasn't upper V on either of those goals, just too much velocity in the ball getting past Glenn on the first one, and then Kelly on that goal you just saw. So 1-1, Mauricio Nieves Bernal and Vova Hubenya matching hand for hand, goal for goal. We are tied up. A free kick for Corvallis with Jonah Craig and Eric Ponce, the two players bookending the ball. It's just the 4th goal Corvallis has given up all season. This is their 5th game. Jonah Craig takes it with the left foot. Dangerous ball. Glenn comes off his line. And a couple South Albany defenders there to make sure Shimal couldn't lob it over the keeper.
Another dangerous restart. We talk about that almost every game, how Corvallis has a strategy and a plan. With the ball usually coming off Jonah Craig's foot. So again, another great service, made it very difficult. And well done on Mason's part to come off his line and get a punch on the ball.
Mason Glenn, not the first Glenn to play keeper for South Albany. Older brother Jacob, a senior last season, also a goalkeeper. Another header test, this time Max Kelly similarly coming off his line and scoops it up for Corvallis, keeps it 1-1. Jacob Glenn, graduating, not only played goalie, but also wore the same jersey number, that double zeros, that his younger brother Mason, a sophomore, now wears as the starting keeper. I asked Sam Tweeten if it's the same jersey, not just the same number, but every once in a while programs get new jerseys, might be a different rotation, but no, it's the same varsity uniform, so that's literally the same jersey, the same cloth that Mason's older brother wore last year, now on the body of the younger Glenn.
Yeah, with the families being able to get tickets and come in and watch the game, Jacobs is here in the stands supporting his brother, and he kept on playing. He's at Lane Community College, so chatting with him. They get a 6-game season this spring. They're starting up here fairly soon, so Jacobs gets the chance to keep on playing the sport.
Good to see the fans in attendance. First game that we've really seen that. South Albany cleared to have a maximum 150 fans in attendance tonight. Each player got 3 or 4 tickets to dole out, so a good number of families able to be here in attendance and able to still watch online. Corvallis defenders continue to be tested. Hannigan Downs elects to just boot it out towards the sideline. It seems like the most effective way for South Albany to attack a little bit has been not so much dribbling themselves or passing through the lines, but just long balls that end up at Corvallis' defensive, their back line.
Yeah, and so it was effective on that first goal for South Albany. So they've just lobbed a couple more just to try to give our forwards, the South Albany forwards, a chance to get their speed up and put some pressure. Forwards always love it when the defenders having to face their own goal, chasing the ball down. Because there's not too many good things that a defender is going to do when he's having to chase the ball, running at his own goal.
Corvallis giving up a goal in a somewhat similar situation a few minutes ago. That was the equalizer. Corvallis scored first on a run from Mauricio Nieves Bernal, passed in by Eric Ponce. So we are at 1-1 between these two programs under second-year head coach Sam Tweeten and sixth-year head coach Chad Foley. A lot of respect from both of those coaches towards their counterparts. Two programs that have either joined the top or stayed at the top of this conference, and wish we had a playoffs this year just to see where each of these teams could go. South Albany 3 ties, Corvallis with 4 wins on the season. Al-Sharif trying to maintain possession here in the corner, see if he can cross one in if he gets enough space. There's a couple players in the center of the box as poked down off of South Albany. Nieves Bernal and Nunez are the two players in the box. A couple other Spartans joining them.
Foul, results of free kick for the Spartans.
It'll be a free kick for Corvallis on that right wing. Nunez on one side of the ball with Jonah Craig behind it. Likely will be Jonah taking it with the left foot.
Yeah, it makes sense. It'll be swinging in and be that much more of a challenge for the keeper to decide whether he should come out after the ball or stay on his line.
Mason Glenn situated right on that near post. 6 Corvallis players inside the box.
Yeah,
Craig goes back post a bit too far. It'll be a goal kick for South Albany.
yeah, I was going to say, I don't know a tremendous amount about goalkeeping, but it felt like Mason's starting position was pretty close, and that Jonah might be trying to take a shot on that back post. He did get his money's worth. He overhit the ball, but a little bit too hard.
Corvallis double teaming on the edge. Eric Ponce helping steal it away from the Red Hawks. Corvallis maintaining possession for at least a slight majority of this ball game, but on the scoreboard we are tied at 1-1. Nunez wants to cross one towards Schimmel. Goes through him and the defender for another goal kick.
That is a great ball that he knocked in there. Very, very dangerous.
Ryan John, excuse me, was the intended recipient of that cross. Good play from Ponce, or Nunez, excuse me.
One of the things is I'm really looking close at the different movements of the players in that 4-4-2 is that South Albany tends to be awfully committed to keeping an eye on Nieves Bernal and Jonah Craig. Seems like whenever the ball's in their area, they get somebody dropping in, whether it's a fullback stepping into midfield to find Nieves Bernal or a forward dropping back into midfield to find Jonah Craig. He's just trying to disrupt the flow through Jonah and the danger that Nieves Bernal has if he gets the ball going forward.
It's a lot to handle for any team defending Corvallis. Both Nieves Bernal and Jonah Craig, and even they're not the only ones that are capable scorers, distributors, ball handlers. A lot of good dribbling skill across this Corvallis lineup.
And one of the challenges for the Spartans then is South Albany maybe doesn't have the offensive shape and structure to possess the ball and play like they normally would, which means the default is go ahead and overhit a ball and put some pressure on the Spartan back line and it worked for a goal. So that's going to keep on being the pattern of attack for South Albany.
Jackson Myers back for the Corvallis back line. Checked into this game a few minutes ago.
Red Hawk substitution. On the field, number 17, Cameron Henning.
Henning comes in for South Albany, a senior for this Red Hawk squad. Booted out. While we have a moment, I want to thank one of our sponsors here on Oregon Sports Beat, Even Flow Plumbing, a family-owned and operated company providing quick, reliable services from minor plumbing repairs and drain cleaning to whole house repipes in the Mid-Willamette Valley area. Please call 541-738-8853 for all your plumbing needs. Just over halfway through this opening half of play here at South Albany High School. Beautiful day for soccer. Majestic sunset earlier. Chilly temperatures, but very dry in Corvallis the last few days. Some friendly fire for Corvallis. Off the face, it stays in bounds. A bounding ball is kept by Max Kelly. And apparently out of bounds. It will be a corner kick for Corvallis. You hope that the Corvallis player just took a shot from his own teammate. It might have been Elias Gallardo Rosas, the player, just an unintentional shot of his teammate that hit him right in the nose.
Yeah, the substitutes come in inspired by the referee, so might have hit him in the nose and a little bit of a bloody nose, causing the need for the substitution.
corner kick going through the line, stays in, stolen away by Corvallis, and it will be the Spartans' ball. Seth Hannigan downs the one who replaced Elias Gallardo. Hopefully Elias will be all right. Kept playing and kept his feet, but that was a hard ball that came right at his face. And want to be very careful with head injuries, concussions, all that sort of thing, and so they'll check on Elias.
I've kept my eye on Seth Hannigan early this season, watching him play as a young player, playing an important role in that center fullback spot for Corvallis High. But kind of a small world story. A little over 30 years ago, Oregon State started their men's soccer program. And Seth, I think it's his uncle, John Hannigan, played for the Beavers back in those days.
Wow.
And so over 30 years later, his nephew is playing here for the Spartans, but John Hannigan's also a Spanish teacher here at South Albany High School.
Wow.
So I got a kick out of hearing about that. He's awful proud of his family. And my hunch is even though he's a South Albany employee, he gets his paycheck from the Red Hawks, he's probably cheering for Corvallis High tonight.
That's pretty fun. A few different connections between these programs. There's one of them, and the Monroy family also spanning the two schools. You've got Edgar Monroy, Leo Monroy, and it's a big family. And then you've got there's from Corvallis, and then Chris Monroy being a South Albany player. Jonah Craig wants to take a long shot from well beyond the box, off frame.
Yeah, that's a worthwhile effort on Jonah's part. South Albany had quite a few people back behind the ball and backing off of him, so might as well see if he can give the young keeper a problem to solve. But it was just way too far off frame for his standards.
The South Albany team last year went 7-6-1, finished number 12 in the OSAA rankings, made the tournament, ended up losing to Hillsboro in the opening round. Lost a number of talented players from that roster, Zachary Cisneros and Jacob Glenn, both their keepers, as well as Ivan Ortiz, Victor Rios, and Anthony Areola Flores, all graduating from that squad, but they've still got a pretty good bulk of their starters returning for this season, and some youngsters who have moved up the ranks, and so a formidable squad that have faced basically the cream of the crop in the conference so far. The foul with Nunez hitting the deck. Corvallis will have a free kick, but I mean, to start off with Woodburn, followed it up with West Albany, and then the two Corvallis schools. I mean, they did not have an easy schedule from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely not. And then to go down to Woodburn to start the season with the tie game and feel like maybe they hadn't even had a chance to win that game. That's a great start. A 0-0 game against a rival probably didn't took the shine off the Woodburn trip because West Albany and South Albany hasn't been that competitive.
Jonah Craig swings it in, headed away, and ultimately out for a corner kick. But good set piece from Corvallis to move the ball quickly into the box.
And they did a great job whipping it in from the flanks. Very dangerous. But I was just saying that the rivalry game in both towns hasn't been competitive in terms of wins and losses. So I think South Albany started with that tie at Woodburn, and I think the tie with West Albany, maybe if the Woodburn one feels like a win, maybe that one doesn't feel like a win.
Corvallis ended up winning its own rivalry match over Crescent Valley 2-1. South Albany has tied all three matches this season. Ponce to take the corner. Mauricio Nieves Bernal tried to redirect it to Eric, but didn't quite get the best touch on it. Jackson Myers playing stopper for Corvallis. Quick transition right back. Counter-attacking the counter-attack for CHS. Goes out of bounds and stays with the Spartans.
That was a dangerous moment because Corvallis High did clean up the counterattack, and there was spread way long between the two back lines, and Corvallis had an opportunity to get South Albany broken down. Didn't quite work out for him that time.
Talked with Chad Foley earlier today about how aggressive he's been with his outside backs, hunting for goals, being more aggressive, knowing that they're capable goal scorers and distributors, but he knows the South Albany team favoring the counterattack. He's got to know when to pick and choose when to bring those outside backs up. Here's a goal scoring opportunity for Corvallis, and swinging ball, and again over hit from Jonah Craig. Bounces out harmlessly for Corvallis.
And checking the corner flags out. If there's a wind down there, I can't tell, because that's the second time the ball's been over hit. And so my hunch is that ball's supposed to be a little bit lower and driven into the mix. That Corvallis didn't have somebody in that far back end keeping the play in front of them.
Mason Glenn, the goal kick for South Albany, glances off of Joe Nunez. Corvallis winning the second ball, and Jonah Craig filtering it through Mauricio Nieves-Bernal. Corvallis had something going there, but the South Albany defense cleans it up. Gus Lursat going for it for Corvallis. Bounces it out of bounds back to South Albany. Filker, middle of the field for Corvallis. Ahead towards John, sprinting towards it with Lara sliding in. Gets to the ball first. Slide tackle from Sergio Lara, the junior defender.
That was a dangerous position Corvallis was in, and a very good tackle. Feels like the referees are talking about whether that was a foul or not. Looks like they did decide to award the free kick.
It looked like Lara may have gotten to that ball first, but they do call a foul on it. This time it will not be Jonah Craig. A low ball that Nieves-Bernal tries to finesse backwards, but out of bounds. It will stay with Corvallis for a corner kick.
Yeah, the center referee overruled the assistant linesman on the call. The linesman thought it was a goal kick. It was overruled by the center. So Diego Hernandez must be a captain this year for South Albany. He was checking that out with the official in the middle.
This time Jonah Craig will take the corner. Overhit the last couple. You feel like he's going to provide a better ball this time for the senior. Corvallis swapping some of their players front to back and moving all over. Good ball front of the net, headed towards Glenn. Shot on goal, so Glenn ultimately gets the save. But Corvallis pressing right backwards, but out of bounds off of Ponce.
So that was a new corner kick I hadn't seen yet. So Chad is bringing some new things out every game. And to be honest, that's a great sign of the stability of the Spartan program. That in a year like this, if you have the time and training to work those things out, because quite honestly, running restarts and organized corner kicks sometimes gets ignored at this level, as you're looking for other things to take care of during practice.
Seemed like the idea there, players moving all around, front of the box, back of the box, that any South Albany players marking, if they are kind of doing more man-to-man there, might be hard just to keep track of which guy was yours, where they're going around. Do I stay here? Do I run with them? And just cause some confusion.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think South is playing a zonal system there, and it makes it a little easier to deal with all that movement.
It'll be a goal kick for Corvallis, it looks like. Excuse me, or a throw-in just inside the flag there for the Redhawks. Under 10 minutes to go here in the first half. Saw some early scores about 10 minutes in, and we've cooled down ever since then. Did have a shot on goal moments ago, however, for Corvallis. South Albany has not played near the net in a while. But all the way down near Corvallis' goal line, but CHS gets the ball back.
Yeah, as the halves evolve, Corvallis, I think, is finding the rhythm and the pattern of how they're going to need to attack tonight. A little bit different than maybe what they're used to in terms of being able to possess the ball. So they're playing a little quicker through the middle third of the field. but they're still, now they're trying to find, they are finding spots where their forwards are have their speed up and running with the ball towards the south goal.
Mauricio Nieves-Bernal with it centrally. Back to Ponce. Corvallis, a dangerous play. Kelly coming off his line and ultimately cleaned up, but I doubt Chad Foley was happy with that sequence.
It is awful tough. A team that's used to playing with the ball in front of them, and teams trying to possess, to have balls coming at them at pace with a bunch of runners. It's a little bit unnerving. It's a different pattern than I think Spartans are used to so far this year.
For all the crafty passing that Corvallis has had this season, that just one moment where they kind of slip away from that is that much more striking. But ultimately, South can't take advantage there. Corvallis coming back to clean that up and maintains the 1-1 tie.
So a moment ago, Nieves-Bernal was getting the ball played into his feet as an attacking midfielder, and Ruben Alvarado for South Albany, he's a center back. So he popped all the way up in the midfield. So he's a guy that I think is, typically man marked, but it does seem like Alvarado, his job is to keep an eye on Nieves-Bernal tonight.
Jose Zaragoza Perez taking up space with the ball and scores. South Albany takes its first lead of the match. Jose scores, just took it himself for a while and got past a couple Corvallis players on the dribble, and only had Max Kelly to beat by the end and put South Albany up 2-1.
A great run on Jose's part. I was noticing he hasn't had much play, hasn't been the one chasing the balls down. So for him to collect the ball and run like he did, that's an amazing goal for Jose. And it's one of those now where Corvallis, it'll be interesting to see how they respond. I don't think they've been behind all year. And their defense has been caught off guard a couple times this first half. So it'll be interesting to see how this gets played out close to halftime, see what kind of adjustments Spartans might come up with.
Yeah, Corvallis has played 352 minutes of soccer this season, has now trailed for about 30 seconds. It beat Central 4-1, having scored the first 4 goals of that match. Beat West Albany 1-0, beat Crescent Valley 2-1, beat Lebanon 6-1. Jonah Craig, long ball from midfield all the way into the box. Greer comes back to it. It gets by Glenn. Lucas Greer scores on the set piece. Will they count it? It looks like Corvallis has tied it up at 2-2.
A great response on the Spartans' part. It mimics what happened earlier in the half. Going down and coming right back and getting the game tied up.
It just kept dribbling through the defense. The ball on its own just got past a couple players, and Greer ended up with it. This is only the second time Corvallis has had a goal. The first time Corvallis has a multiple goal scorer other than Mauricio Nieves-Bernal. He was the only one with more than 1 goal. Greer had scored one earlier on the season. He actually was the game-winning goal against West Albany, the only goal scored in that game. Greer scores another one. So Corvallis trailed by 30 seconds, for 30 seconds, maybe a minute at the most, and equalizes it right away. And that was one of the things Chad Foley said at the beginning of the year. What's our level of resilience going to be when we have a bad stretch, when we give up a goal? How are we going to play? Well, this is the first time they trailed all season, and they responded very well, scoring less than a minute later. South Albany hoping to respond to the response. Toe poked from Zaragoza Perez on the outside of the foot, trying to spin it back towards his teammate. Filker comes back with it for Corvallis. So a couple pairs of goals. One goal leads to another. The first pair was about 10 minutes in when Mauricio Nieves-Bernal scored for Corvallis. South Albany equalized it about 2 minutes later. Then we went about 30 minutes scoreless before Jose Zaragoza Perez scored. And right after that, it was Lucas Greer with it. South Albany wanted to come back with the lead. Hubenya will take a strike. Kelly the save. And Seth Hannigan Downs clears it away.
Great save by Max on that. Again, Corvallis's back line got exposed a bit. So coaches will try to tell their back lines if there's not pressure on the other team when they have possession, you got to give space up. And Corvallis back line three times tonight does not recognize that, and the ball's played just dumped over the top. And Vova Hubenya has shown a whole bunch of speed out here tonight. But he's also needing to get some attention from the trainer right now, it looks like.
Yeah, unfortunately, Vova, the one who's on the turf right now, sitting down. He was the one heading towards that ball that was kicked ahead by South Albany, came back to it and took a pretty good shot on goal from Vova Hubenya. Would have had his second goal of the match had Max Kelly not made an athletic play to deflect it away from the net and ultimately cleared by Seth Hannigan Downs. But Vova, some sort of injury, hopefully a minor one for the underclassmen for South Albany. A sophomore, or excuse me, Vova is the senior. But often a long line of Hubenyas through this program. Under 5 minutes to go. And Vova Hubenya is okay.
It's been a great high school soccer game. Got some strategies, got some great coaching and tactics being played out. Have kids on both teams coming up with great plays, individual plays. That save on Max, that's the top save he's made all year. I did not see the Lebanon game, but pretty phenomenal stop. Get down on the ground as quickly as he did.
Good to see Vova Hubenya able to walk off mostly on his own power. His head coach Sam Tweeten checking on him. Sam, who's a second-year head coach for South Albany, last year got hired during the soccer season to work at the high school at South. He's doing all virtual classes this year. He's a personal care assistant working with most of kind of the vulnerable population of South Albany, providing resources and help to a lot of the students and helping out both in the academic side and in the soccer program, and interacts with a lot of his own soccer players. A lot of the teachers know he's the soccer coach, so they can rely on him with his players and provide a resource at the school and coaching as well.
One of the benefits of being involved with both programs and knowing a whole lot about both schools, Corvallis High and South Albany, is to see how Chad and Sam are both thought of by the teachers in the buildings at both schools, and the value that they add. That they're not seen as soccer coaches; they're seen as big contributors to the whole community. It's great to see Sam working with the kids that he does at South Albany.
Sam Tweeten, a former Oregon State soccer player, a defender for OSU, originally comes from Colorado, Fort Collins to be exact. 62 starts in his OSU career. Also coached at the club ranks with TFA Willamette and played for the U23 team with TFA Willamette. Good slide tackle in the back end for South Albany. He's still involved, still coaching with TFA, and will continue to do so.
Yeah, I was meeting with the TFA, and they've rebranded into OFV, Oregon Football,
Yeah.
Oregon Valley Football.
Right.
And so the coach of the U23 team, Logan Hoffman, he takes great advantage of having his players on that U23 team coaching the youngers. And so I asked him, hey, Sam, I'm going to continue playing because I love watching him
Yeah.
as a player. And so I think his playing career is slowing down a little bit as his coaching career ramps up.
Sam, at one point we called some TFA or now OVF matches here in Oregon Sports Beat, and there was one point where Sam was playing for that TFA club as Corvallis brings it down the right wing, still with possession, crossing it towards Greer, nearly out of shot to put that one on net for his second goal. But Sam Tweeten was on the field at the same time as Edgar Monroy, who at the time was still playing for Corvallis High, and Carlos Reyes was on the field, who at the time was playing for South Albany. Those two were seniors a year ago, and Sam was on the field with them, being the South Albany coach now. So it's kind of fun to see the, I won't say mix of generations, because it's not that Sam Tweeten is full generation ahead of those guys, but a coach of the programs that those guys are playing for.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things where you see those younger players step up to that level that Sam Tweeten's at as a player. Another organized restart, even though this is coming from way out in midfield.
Ponce takes the first approach at the ball. It'll be Jonah Craig taking it into the box, and a whistle before either team makes contact with it. Gives it back to South Albany. 90 seconds to go.
Yeah, you talk about Edgar Monroy being his first year out of high school, and he's down in Yavapai. He's having a good start there. I mean, I don't know if any programs are having great starts in terms of being able to play a full schedule, but he's locked in. And you talk about Carlos Reyes. I was chatting with him before the game. He's at Corbin University in Salem and doing well, having a good start to his college career as well.
Some fantastic talent bred and developed right here in the Mid-Willamette Valley. Pretty cool to see the level of soccer and high-level players. South Albany will have to take that free kick again with the clock running under 40 seconds. Goal scorers so far in this match: Mauricio Nieves-Bernal and Lucas Greer for Corvallis, scoring the first and fourth goals of this match. Long one that'll wind out of bounds for a throw-in for Corvallis. South Albany scored 2 goals in a row: Vova Hubenya and Jose Zaragoza Perez. Albeit separated by about 20 minutes between those 2 goals, and after 40 minutes of play, we are tied up at 2-2. We'll take a break, come back for the final 40 minutes of action here between Corvallis and South Albany. Exciting first half of action. Stay with us here for Mid-Willamette Conference Soccer on Oregon Sports Beat.
Because there's a full bottle. I had a full bottle. Do you know? I'll be able to get back in time, right? What? 7 minutes. Hey, Tony.
about set for second half action here at South Albany High School. Thanks for joining us on Oregon Sports Beat. I'm Josh Worden alongside Tony Vandermeer. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, including Shirt Circuit, helping make these broadcasts possible alongside CrossFit. Thanks to Shirt Circuit, CrossFit, and Synergy Solutions. All three of these great businesses providing these broadcasts, in part also helped by Northwest Dental, offering our community unique personalized care in a relaxed and safe environment. And Even Flow Plumbing, a family-owned and operated company providing quick, reliable services from minor plumbing repairs and drain cleaning to whole house repipes in the Mid-Willamette Valley area. Please call 541-738-8853 for all your plumbing needs. 2 goals apiece for Corvallis and South Albany. Both teams led for about a minute or two each. Corvallis scoring in the 10th minute with Mauricio Nieves Bernal. 2 minutes later, Vova Hubenya scored. Vova later injured. We'll see if he does make a return. At this moment, do not see Vova on the field yet. He tied it up at 1 apiece. In the 33rd minute, Jose Zaragoza Perez gave South Albany the lead, the first time Corvallis has trailed at any point this season. This is the 5th game for the Spartans. But just 1 minute later, Lucas Greer scored on a long ball from Eric Ponce, and that tied it up. And South Albany had only scored 3 goals the whole season coming in. They'd conceded 3, scored 3, and they'd tied all 3 of their matches. Well, they've scored 2 and given up 2 today. Corvallis, meanwhile, now having scored 15 goals on the year, having given up just 5. But they've won every match this season, and South Albany testing them, and Corvallis trying to get their second straight win over South. Well, my name's Josh Worden, joined by Tony Vandermeer. Corvallis in a bit of a pressure in the back line. But, Tony, as far as what you saw in the first 40 minutes, South hanging with Corvallis. Corvallis maybe maintaining possession a little more, but what were your kind of main thoughts after the first half?
Yeah, the game, it did finally, I think, settle down a bit for Corvallis, and they found their ways that they're going to try to attack the system, the 4-4-2 system that South Albany is putting in here today. And maybe win more battles in the middle of the field, as they just did.
Joe Nunez takes up a lot of space with the dribble. Ryan John takes a crack at it, but off frame. Goal kick for South Albany.
It'd be interesting to see what kind of tactical switches either coach made. I don't see any systems change right now. See the right midfielder Brian Sanchez for South Albany didn't retract back, so it's looking like he's a kind of a false winger as a third forward. So I don't know if that's a twist that South Albany's tried to put in at halftime. Do you notice that Corvallis High is playing with a sweeper with a deeper central defender, which would counter South Albany's basic offense, which has been some route one over hitting the ball and chasing down the center fullbacks with a little bit of intensity.
South Albany switching to a 4-4-2 today. Spent the rest of the season in a 3-4-3. They did win the ball at midfield. Jose Zaragoza Perez comes away with it after initially stolen moments ago. Corvallis gets it back, but it was a good poke from Coleman King. Sergio Lara waiting for it to cross the goal line. One of the 2 twins on the South Albany squad, Sergio and Daniel.
Do you see, don't see Vova warming up over there on the sideline. Let's give an opportunity for another senior for South Albany, Braden Mesa, playing up top, number 16. I think it's the first time he's been in the game, so it'll be good to see how he replaces Vova up top.
Mesa called upon for some big minutes for South Albany in a heated battle with Corvallis, albeit with no playoff implications this year. But in a normal season, these 2 teams would be vying for those top slots in the Mid-Willamette Conference. Both of these teams still without any losses on the season, although South Albany also has not won a match, tied Woodburn, West Albany, and Crescent Valley. That's 2 common opponents. Corvallis beat both West Albany and Crescent Valley by a goal each and beat Central 4-1, beat Lebanon by 5. Go up to Ryan John on the right wing, but too far for Naif Al-Sharif. It's been interesting to see which of these players on both of these teams had club experience in the offseason, especially a year like this with an extended offseason. You know, already, whether it's you're playing a different sport or just guys don't play club, could be at somewhat of a disadvantage and maybe even exacerbated this season for just how long players could be either sitting on their couch or working out or playing club. South Albany had a decent number of players that did play club ball over the offseason. Sam Tweeden said 6 or 7 of the varsity guys did play on a club team in between the 2019 season, a year and a half ago, to this late winter, early spring season.
Yeah, I think there's athletes on both teams that are also playing other sports. You talked about the younger Hubania who's not out here now doing tennis. I think a number of these kids do track and tennis in the traditional spring season.
Ponce, a free kick, looked like he was untouched. And Corvallis takes the lead back early in the second half on a free kick from about 45 yards away.
He did hit that with a little bit of intensity, and it does look like Jose Guzman was maybe unsighted. There wasn't a wall. There wasn't a need for a wall from that distance. The ball certainly did seem to snake through a big crowd and catch the new goalkeeper for South a little bit off guard there.
They do switch keepers at the half. At the half. Mason Glenn starts. Jose Guzman follows in the second half, and Eric Ponce, just a free kick that slotted through all the Redhawks and Spartans in the box, and Eric Ponce returns the lead for Corvallis. CHS has led for just 2 minutes in this match. South Albany led for 1 minute. Other than that, we've spent pretty much this whole time tied, but now Corvallis up 3-2. Eric Ponce joins Mauricio Nieves Bernal and Lucas Greer as the goal scorers. That is the second goal for Ponce. Another shot on goal, punched upwards and over the net by Zaragoza. By Guzman. So good play after giving up a goal to make a save for Jose Guzman.
Yeah, younger keeper. Both keepers in terms of experience level haven't had a lot of varsity experience, and so to give up a goal that he's probably regretting, to come back with that reflex save, it's going to be good for his confidence long term.
He'll be tested moments later by this corner kick. Ponce to take it with the right foot. All the Corvallis players right in front of the net. Looked like Jonah Craig was sprinting towards him. Jonah's out at midfield about 30 yards away. But it looks like Ponce will instead take this one towards the net. Does swing it in, headed upwards and not quite on frame. Does seem to be last touched by South Albany. So this time Jonah Craig will take the corner kick from the opposite side. The left footer can swing it in from this angle. Corvallis already scoring on a set piece this half. Only 7 minutes into the second half. Low driving kick that's cleared away by South Albany, and perhaps a chance to counterattack unless Corvallis can clear it out, and Ponce does exactly that.
So I think, Josh, at halftime, both coaches probably a little bit frustrated with their own teams in that taking a lead. Both teams took a lead, and they gave up, to be honest, a real soft goal to tie the game back up. And to have a win, or to have a victory, or a lead given away so cheaply, super frustrating. So now Corvallis has scored a goal, but they've continued the pressure and kind of sorted that situation out. And so it's one of those, if South Albany doesn't look out, Corvallis is feeling good about themselves, and if they get another one and go 2 goals up, South Albany could look out and get a boat race like they did last year. So it'll be interesting to see how they do these next few minutes. If South can try to get the ball back or get a little bit of control of the game.
A whistle as Ryan John and Daniel Lara both headed towards it. The referee issuing John off the field, perhaps just wanting him to get checked out by the trainers, it seemed.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but you're happy for an official to step in and make sure players are safe.
Anson Schimmel replaces him. Levi Alvarez comes in for South Albany. Jonah Craig will take this one from a yard off of midfield. Backspins it to the edge of the box, headed in dangerously, but Guzman comes in to cleanly take it for South Albany. Coleman King, a bit of a give and go for South with Jose Zaragoza Perez, his counterpart. Pounded through the defense. Joe Nunez giving chase. Kept it too far off the South Albany defender. Nunez takes it. Good play in the back line to make sure that didn't result in a quick goal because Nunez was hunting for that ball. Right back to Mauricio Nieves Bernal, waits on it and elects to come back to the field. Two Redhawks run into each other. Lara is still on the ground. He took a shot from his teammate. Nunez fires into the hands of Guzman, but Daniel Lara is smarting after trying to defend Nieves Bernal and ran into his own teammate.
Yeah, I'm not so sure it's a tactical switch that Coach Foley put in place, but it seems like the forwards on Corvallis High are running with a little bit more tempo, a little bit more attitude in terms of trying to win tackles off of South Albany's defense. And they are trying to put them under a bit of pressure just by simply outworking them in South's third of the field.
Vova Hubenya, who was injured earlier for South Albany, has not returned for the Redhawks. Was injured late in the half with a foot issue or some sort of leg injury. Was able to walk off on his own power. This time Daniel Lara, a junior and a twin to fellow defender Sergio, needed a few extra minutes, and so South Albany taking a couple cracks. Corvallis not completely healthy either, without a couple of players in this match. Jesus Pulido has missed a couple games now, not available tonight. Ty Moyer also out, sustained a concussion in the Crescent Valley match. Peter Conrad also was doubtful to play in this one with an ankle issue, trying to work back from. So Corvallis with some minor injuries to, at least even slightly more than minor, just holding a few players out for this game. And South Albany, if they weren't already a bit battered, having a couple players sustain some injuries tonight. But good to see both of the players who had been injured able to walk off the field moments later, but not the best sign for the Redhawks and two of their critical players.
Yeah, Josh, remember you talking last week about Chad having the Corvallis group do the Cooper test, and I think you said 15 of them had gotten to the goal of 8 laps in 12 minutes.
Right.
I think that's going to be evident here second half here, because first half both teams they didn't sub a tremendous amount, and both teams worked really, really hard. So that sign of 15 players being able to do 8 laps in 12 minutes might show itself here in this last half hour of the game, with Spartans maybe being a little fitter.
Chad Foley was happy to see that number of players pass the test. He says usually a pretty good barometer of who can make varsity. You've got to pass that one, or it's not too likely you'll make it. And he had 15 players pass, and that was with masks on. A bit of a push in the back from Corvallis results in a free kick with Martinez to take it. Daniel eyes one into the box towards Zaragoza Perez, or Lara, excuse me.
That was a great service by Daniel, and cleared out fairly cleanly by Spartan defense.
Lursak lets it go for Corvallis. Just over 10 minutes into the second half, we were tied at 2 apiece at the intermission. The go-ahead goal for Corvallis from Eric Ponce. Crafty move from Jonah Craig. Had 3 Redhawks trailing him.
Yeah, a little bit of a strategy trying to keep somebody's eyes on Nieves Bernal is to have a forward drop back in and pester him from in front of the ball. And Coach Tweeton's got Levi Alvarez seeing if he can replace Vova up top. And so Levi's the one who just dropped in and was making it hard for Nieves Bernal to have, or for Jonah to have the ball at that point.
Corvallis will have a throw in. Will be taken by Elias Gallardo, or Lursak, excuse me. Comes back to the sophomore, Gus, who had a good amount of playing time last year as a freshman. Kellen Filker controlling the middle of the field. Back to Filker on the edge of the box. Jonah Craig with the ball on his strong foot. That's his left one. Lara comes up with it. Chased down by Nunez. Be a throw in for the Spartans. After this, Corvallis will have 3 straight home matches. Dallas on Thursday. Woodburn on the 23rd. Finishes out with Silverton. That's the last game officially on the schedule. Long kick from Nunez is handled by Guzman and out of play, but a long kick from Corvallis put some pressure. I think that may have been Naif Al-Sharif actually the one who took that shot, but either way, Guzman saves it out of bounds.
Yeah, Jose's had to make more saves than Mason did in the first half, and his footwork is pretty solid. But giving away that corner kick right there, hope for his sake it doesn't come back to haunt him, because it feels like he should have been able to grab that shot.
Corvallis implementing a lot of different set pieces. They did try this play in the first half, or at least a modification of it. This time, ball crosses the face of the net, but nobody able to complete that corner kick from Craig.
Yeah, that's the knock that I think Jonah's been looking for. Didn't get too high, and it was driven hard and through the 6-yard box with a lot of chance for somebody in white to redirect that.
Substitution comes in, and Guzman will take the goal kick a second time. I was mentioning earlier, officially the last game on the schedule is Silverton, but there's a decent chance that will actually be the penultimate game of the season. There's no playoffs, but Corvallis working to put a non-league game on the schedule. Chad Foley said April 1st, we're hoping to face South Eugene on the road, which is not common. Corvallis and South Eugene have not played, by Chad's estimate, in about a decade.
It used to be a rivalry back in the days when they're both at the same classifications, but South Eugene's at the 6A level. And Corvallis has some traditional non-conference games in past years that they've played, and it's just not gone south to play Eugene schools as much, because they have some rivalries up north that they usually take advantage of.
Will be fun to see that matchup if it does get officially scheduled. Coleman King had a chance at that ball, went through his feet, but South Albany trying to get their backs away from the wall, with Corvallis spending a good amount of time in the attacking third last few minutes, and they're about to come right back in there. 15 minutes into this half, just about. Nunez was in the center of the box, just waiting there for a moment. Well, that's the schedule for Corvallis I just mentioned, with Dallas on Thursday. Meanwhile, South Albany plays at Silverton on Thursday and also has matches against Dallas, Central, and Lebanon left on the schedule. For a team that had 7 wins last year, yet to get a win and yet to lose a match this season. 3 ties so far. Naif Al-Sharif poked away from him. Filker coming back to it for Corvallis. All the way back to Jackson Myers. asked Sam Tweeten earlier today about how they've altered the practices this season, just with the limited number of practices they've been able to have. Shorter off season, the tryouts right before the year, and just now even if you're able to have a normal practice schedule each week, still ask them, do you do it differently this year? Have you altered what that kind of looks like? What changes have you made this season with all the circumstances? Good to see Daniel Lara back on the pitch. He was injured earlier. This free kick gets through everybody except for Max Kelly. Sam Tweeten said, the main thing is we're kind of less concerned with X's and O's this year. Not to say that's not important, but maybe not as much of a concern for us because we want to prioritize what's important. And for us, it's more just about getting the buy-in from the players, getting them to be passionate about the program, focus on the grades, and most of all, just for the players to be in a good headspace. Once you get that and clear all that, then you can worry about the other stuff. But make sure the most important things personal to the players and their families and their personal well-being at the forefront, and kind of focus on that. And I asked him, how do you actually change practices, or what practical steps do you do? And he said, well, one of the things we've changed is we've actually combined our varsity and JV practices. Jose Zaragoza Perez nearly had a chance to wind up and take a shot on goal with that one. So they've combined the varsity and the JV practices, just get all the players in the same field, do a lot of drills together. And he said it's created a lot of camaraderie. Players just kind of have a unity between them. Now the players care more about the other teams. The varsity players more invested in the JV games and vice versa. And you just feel more together with everybody. And you kind of everybody sees the vision of the program. It's not segmented so much, but the things we preach now reach all the players at the same time, and they experience that together. And so more of a family culture that Sam Tweeten's trying to create here.
Yeah, and Sam has an advantage, a nice built-in advantage, that the JV coach, Ian Vanderswan, is a counselor at the middle school that feeds into South Albany. So the JV players, most of them that came from Kalapuya Middle School, know their coach from their middle school days. So it makes it even easier to build that family culture you talk about.
Pretty cool combo to have the JV coach at the middle school level and the varsity head coach in the building as a PCA at the high school, a personal care assistant. Is Sam Tweeten, head coach, second year, South Albany. Plays through the lines, the flag goes up, and it goes over the inline anyways. Now have a Corvallis injury. It looks like that's Jonah Craig.
And it does look like he's called a foul. He tried to play advantage to the center referee, but he's calling a foul and actually going to give a card for the tackle.
Good to see Jonah get back up before too long, and he's a tough kid. Third-year varsity player is Jonah Craig. In fact, 3-year starter in this program.
Substitutions for both teams.
So since the play was stopped for his injury, he's not going to be able to stay on the field and take that free kick in that really dangerous spot. It'll be interesting to see who gets a chance to knock this one.
That usually would be Jonah Craig's domain, but Corvallis has a couple capable players. In fact, there was one free kick from a similar spot in the first half, also on the right wing, so kitty corner to where we're at now. And although Craig was behind it, and they do actually let Craig stay on the field.
Oh, they do.
Interestingly enough, normally you would have to leave in an injury stoppage, but here's Ponce. It'll be Craig taking it. Jonah spins one in on a low ball. That first touch by South Albany. I suppose technically, since the ball went over the goal line and that stopped it, perhaps that was the loophole for Jonah Craig to stay in. I'm sure he wasn't going to go out unless they made him.
Probably should point out for Jonah's parents that might be listening to the live stream, watching the live stream, that he's fine, he's playing.
Yeah.
And also the player, and I've forgotten his name, sorry, who The South Albany trainer took a look at him for the Spartan player who was removed by the official. He seems to be fine. I think he's back on the bench, and so Mom and Dad, I don't think you got to worry.
So about halfway through the first half here. Joe Nunez running with the ball himself, finally stopped by Lara. Mauricio Nieves-Bernal taps it up into the air, collected by Nunez. Boxed inwards, Coleman King deflects it off of Corvallis. Kept in by South Albany. Dangerous play in the back line, and Nunez comes away with it, but Lara scoops up the open ball.
Corvallis is trying to find the time and rhythm to play out of the back with their back, and are finding dangerous players in dangerous spots. Joe Nunez just came out wide right to get the ball played into his feet, and so it's one of those where South Albany maybe is losing their marks a little bit in this moment. And to Corvallis' credit, they're finding the spots where they get a little bit more possession in the middle third of the field.
Jose Zaragoza Perez to kick it to the right wing and all the way out of bounds. When Chad Foley was scouting the South Albany team, the way he described South Albany's approach and formation, Noah Hanscom comes in, by the way, for Corvallis. He said what it looks like for them is that they have kind of three central defenders, wing backs as well, and they look like a 5-2-3 on defense and a 3-4-3 on offense. Now, that may have all been before South Albany's switches, because the Redhawks kind of overhauled their whole formation to a more conventional 4-4-2 tonight. So a lot of that went out the window, but nonetheless, I'm sure South Albany will still employ some of that throughout the rest of the season. Kind of an interesting comment from Chad Foley. Two different formations, offensively and defensively, how he saw them operate. Nieves-Bernal has his feet taken out from underneath him. Foul on Monroy.
I'm surprised the yellow card's not coming out there. Chris caught a break, I believe.
Mauricio Nieves-Bernal, the only player who scored more goals than him for Corvallis last season, was Chris's cousin, Edgar, a Corvallis player. Now Chris, a South Albany player. Another injury for South Albany.
So the tackles are coming in harder. The pace of the battles picking up, and players are dropping a little bit. So to be honest, the game has been pretty clean and crisp. So I'm hoping it'll elevate back up to get a little bit of more pattern play rather than going from battle to battle, tackle to tackle.
Coleman King, the player, hopefully just a cramp for Coleman, a junior for South Albany. Just a quick recap of the scoring tonight. Corvallis scoring first in the 10th minute. Mauricio Nieves-Bernal with the assist from Eric Ponce, followed up by Vova Hubenya tying the score 2 minutes later. Late in the half, a pair of goals separated by maybe 60 seconds. South Albany took the lead with Jose Zaragoza Perez dribbling through the Corvallis defense, getting ahead of everybody and scoring before Corvallis' Lucas Greer tied it up. Spent the halftime break knotted at 2 apiece, and Corvallis scored 5 minutes into the second half with Eric Ponce on a free kick from about 45 yards out. And we have stayed tied ever since.
Game has gotten a little bit choppy and not as clean as it was in terms of the traps and the longer passes. Tend to be going out, losing possession or going out of bounds.
the second half plays out anything like the first, we'll spend the next few minutes scoreless and then see a flurry of activity by the end of it. But as you mentioned earlier, with conditioning at play, still relatively early in the season, especially with the limited offseason, conditioning more than ever is a factor. So we'll see as we come down the stretch how much the players are able to fight through that and create goal-scoring opportunities or prevent them, for that matter.
Yeah, what South Albany, they were effective in that 4-4-2, but a lot of that was the danger that Vova Hubenia was putting out there with his pace, and so they're really missing that this half. They're trying to play maybe some balls over the top, but they just don't have the tempo, the player, to run that down as effectively as Vova was. I see they still have Brian Sanchez high on the right side there, but they really aren't finding the ball for possession to get him played forward. So he's kind of just lost out there in the wing, not had much play.
Yeah, Brian Sanchez on the far side from us, haven't not brought his name up very much, but playing for South Albany on that right side. His fellow number 6, Gus Lursak, with the throw in for Corvallis. I like the ball moments ago from Noah Hanscom. Went just a little far for Mauricio Nieves-Bernal, but a near breakaway opportunity for Mauricio if South Albany's defenders gave him any more space than they did. But Hanscom, a good ball in for Mauricio, but we've remained scoreless for a while now. That ball deflecting back and forth between Levi Alvarez and Jackson Myers.
Well, there's a good movement with some possession for South Albany, but then Corvallis did a very good job staying stable in their defensive shape and breaking that up.
One of the main points of emphasis this game for Chad Foley was still valuing the outside backs and how much Corvallis has created chances with the outside defenders moving up the field, forcing the opposing defense to respect them and the more conventional mids and forwards attacking, taking up space, and using those outside backs to create chances themselves, but knowing that South Albany likes to counterattack, and so being tactical with when to do that, picking and choosing times when it's appropriate to do that. Well, at least to me, Tony, I'm curious your thoughts on how they've done that. It does not seem like South Albany has taken advantage of counterattacks. They've scored 2 goals, neither of them necessarily coming on a conventional counterattack. So it seems like Corvallis has not hurt themselves too much in that area.
Yeah, they've maintained their defensive shape, and I think I mentioned that first half. They got themselves in trouble when the back line didn't back off of the forwards with too much space behind that back line for South Albany to just lob longer balls behind the defenders. And letting South Albany forwards get their speed up and outrun them into dangerous spots. That hasn't happened this half, so Corvallis has kind of sorted that out.
Corvallis has not allowed a goal since the 33rd minute. Joe Nunez comes back from his forward position to pressure Daniel Lara. Fortunate sign for South Albany, Coleman King, who was injured a few minutes ago, is awaiting to return. Just have not seen Vova Hubenia since he was injured late in the first half. Lara behind the ball for South Albany alongside Chris Monroy. Chris the closer one to it. South hoping to equalize it late in the as we enter the later stages of the second half. Corvallis has not had too many counter-attacking opportunities tonight, but Ryan John trying to provide something of that sort, dribbling down the left wing. A whistle and it'll go against Corvallis.
A good quick counterattack on Corvallis' parts, and equally good defending and tracking back for South Albany. Game is going back and forth a bit with holes showing up in space in the middle third of the field. It'd be interesting to see which team can maybe get their foot on the ball and maybe control and play through those spaces with some effect.
Substitutions for both teams. The Spartans number 11, Anson Schimmel.
Anson Schimmel comes in for Corvallis.
Number 25, Coleman King.
And Coleman King returns. Both of those players returning for their respective teams. Both of these teams losing a lot of tremendous players from last year. Carlos Reyes, Ivan Ortiz, Victor Rios, Zachary Cisneros, Jacob Len, Anthony Ariola Flores for South Albany. And Corvallis losing the player of the year in the state, Edgar Monroy. Not to mention Spencer Vingelin, Nathaniel Estrada, and Moises Quijada. But a sign of a good program, rebounding and re-upping with players from the JV and other varsity guys who have filled those roles capably. Ryan John into the box, crossing it back towards the center, and just off the mark from Nunez.
Yeah, that was similar to the first goal in terms of finding space down the left flank and effectively exploiting it. And that pass back was set up quite nicely. I'm sure Joe's pretty upset that he kind of shanked that. Great counterattack on the Spartans' part.
I think that actually was, said Ryan John, I believe that was Anson Schimmel, who had just checked in, who'd made that run down the left flank and dribbled with it for a while and crossed it back and nearly got the assist. Schimmel comes back out. So a quick run, Chad Foley brings him in, says, run your heart out and make a play, and I'll bring you right back out. Max Kelly comes way off his line to send this one towards the highway. Under 10 minutes to go here at South Albany High School. Coleman King, a good touch off the side of his foot. Nearly found, I think that was Braden Mesa waiting there if he got a chance. Mesa coming towards it with Jackson Myers in front of him. Heads it back to Zaragoza. Perez takes a shot just off the left post, nearly on frame from Zaragoza Perez.
Yeah, as the spaces have opened up in midfield, it does seem like the ball's bouncing a bit, and you're getting in battles for second balls and awkward ball dropping awkwardly. So Jose did a good shot, good chance getting some good wood on the ball, a little bit off frame. And my hunch is Chad's hoping his defenders are going to attack that ball a little bit stronger in the future and get that cleared high and wide.
Corvallis had not given up 2 goals in any match this season so far in their first 4. Gave up 2 in the first half and even trailed for a little bit, which they had not had any experience doing so far this season, but came back quickly, scored the equalizer, have not trailed since then. Braden Mesa with a chance. Good defense from Myers. I want to come back to Jackson Myers in a moment, ask you about his play, Tony, but also a quick, we'll get to the sponsor in just a moment. They got an extra ball here. We'll continue play on the back line. South Albany trying to make the most of this last 7 minutes and 20 seconds. The throw in towards the center of the box, and I think we will have an extra moment here. I want to thank Even Flow Plumbing for their work supporting this broadcast, a family-owned and operated company. They do a lot of work in the Mid-Willamette Valley area, whatever the service is, a small job, a big job, minor plumbing repairs, drain cleaning, whatever it is. 541-738-8853. That's Even Flow Plumbing. Zaragoza Perez goes flying for the header, but over his head. Nunez will fly down the right flank with it. It had to knife Al-Sharif.
So one of the things, maybe we've been a little critical on the defenders on both sides, maybe been a little sloppy with balls in the air, but both teams the defenders have been really good as far as like getting touch tight, we call that. When a ball's getting played into a forward's feet, the forwards are made to feel really uncomfortable very quickly by all the 1v1 defending. That defensive lines on both teams have been demonstrating out here.
Good first touch from Joe Nunez. 1-2, right foot, left foot with the ball. Zaragoza Perez sprints after him. Whole team defending here for South Albany, making sure they do not want to get down by 2. Deflected off of South Albany. Coming back to Jackson Myers a little bit, it seems like he's dropped back the most several times defending for Corvallis. What have you seen from both Myers himself and how Chad Foley is using his senior defender and making sure they maintain this lead from Jackson Myers tonight, Tony?
Tactically, that's a reaction to the style of play that South Albany was successful with in the first half in terms of hitting balls. When South Albany goes to a 2-forward system and the ball's being played over the top, those 2 center fullbacks aren't used to having 2 guys running with the hair on fire the way that South Albany has been doing. Not as much this second half. But part of that's the adjustments that Chad has made. So Myers has done well to give the space up so the ball's not going to be played behind him as easily. So he's been able to cut out some balls with his head. That first half we're going over him. And then his chest is facing his own goal. And all sorts of bad things can happen there. So that's been cleaned up.
Did have to clear one ball just in similar fashion, chest to his own net in the first half. Had fewer of those cases in the second, and they've not allowed a goal since the intermission. Lucas Greer trying to track that one down moments ago for Corvallis. Ultimately ends up in a throw-in, but CHS right back with it, with Eric Ponce running laterally through the center of the field. If this ball gets past Myers, Zaragoza Perez has a chance, but yet another good play by Jackson Myers.
And again, the ball played, even though the ball was at a diagonal with some distance to it, Jackson was able to keep the ball in front of him and deal with the danger effectively.
Daniel Martinez sitting down for South Albany at the 40-yard line. Hopefully just some cramping for him.
I think you mentioned this is his first game of the season. And so, yeah, and he's been out there pretty much the whole match. So it does look like a cramp.
Corvallis, meanwhile, has brought in Colin Smith, missing a few players, and still a deep bench for Corvallis. They've got a number of good players, guys who could be getting a lot more playing time than they do, and there's only 11 spots on the field. And the one silver lining of a couple of guys being unavailable due to injury tonight is you could spread the playing time around to deserving players who would not necessarily get it with the full complement available.
Yeah, and everybody gets better because in training sessions are probably a whole lot more intense than when people are pretty comfortable with their roles or playing time.
Which looks like an accidental push, and both players kind of tripping over one another. Coleman King and Joe Nunez. Still only a 1-goal margin. One quick attack and this ball game could be tied. Daniel Lara will take the free kick in what may perhaps be the best chance South Albany has had of late. Lara swings one into the box, headed upwards by Lursak. Comes out to Colin Smith.
Yeah, that's cleaned up well by Corvallis because South Albany was committed. They had 10 players, 9 in the box. Acting like it's the last few minutes of the game, and so there's a lot of pressure. Yeah, Corvallis was first to the ball. Well done.
Down to 2:40 to go. Al-Sharif trying to sprint after this one. The speedster gets into the box with it and runs out of real estate. The call will be a goal kick. And it looks like they may actually call a foul on South Albany. Are they going to award a penalty kick there for?
No, I think he did call it a goal kick.
Okay.
And Corvallis is wondering why it's not a corner kick. I think I am too.
I saw the South Albany players start to protest, and I was wondering if the head referee. I was looking at the assistant who held up the flag for a goal kick, and it looked like the South Albany players were disagreeing with the call as if a foul was called in the box, but it is a goal kick. Under 2 to go. Zaragoza Perez, who's had 1 goal today already. Ball can't get quite to him. Corvallis holding backwards. Still have 2 players up high, so they're not putting all 11 behind the ball and playing conservative, but they played good defense here, especially in the second half.
Yeah, the back line, as we've talked about, they got it sorted out in terms of keeping the ball in front of them. Those are the kind of tackles that make coaches get gray hair. Because there wasn't a whole lot of danger in that play until the foul was committed. So for the Spartan player, for his sake, you hope nothing bad happens out of this.
Under a minute to go. One of the final chances South Albany will have tonight. Brian Sanchez will take it. If they score and we end the 80 minutes, you just go straight to a tie. South Albany would take it for their 4th tie if they can get there. Sanchez bounces one into the box. Craig there for it. Kicked out of bounds, and we're to 30 seconds to go. Lara chasing after it. One last gasp for South Albany. Even if they don't score here, it's been a good game by South. Just a 1-goal margin against a tremendous Corvallis team. But they'd like to avoid their first loss of the season. Nunez comes away with it, avoiding a high kick, and he will just kick it away and waste some time. And Corvallis inching closer to maintaining their undefeated season. 4-0 on the year, and Corvallis has improved to 5-0 on the season. Final score 3-2. The game winner coming in the 45th minute on a free kick from over 40 yards away from Eric Ponce. Ends up being the decider. The other goal scorers, Mauricio Nieves Bernal, Vova Hubenya, Jose Zaragoza Perez, and Lucas Greer. 3-2 the final score. Tony Vandermeer, I'm Josh Warren. Also a shout out to Jason Platt, the athletic director here at South Albany High School. Thanks to Chad Foley and Sam Tweeten, the head coaches for these 2 programs. A fun match, Tony, and a good one with Corvallis winning at 3-2.
Yeah. As I started at the start of the broadcast, a great night, great weather today, and a good game. A lot of tactics involved, and I think both teams will walk off feeling like they gave a good account of themselves. Corvallis probably feels better, of course, having won, and probably a just victory. They created more chances. But it was a great high school game, and I think both teams are respecting each other, the other team, at this point.
Well, I want to thank our sponsors, including Shirt Circuit, for helping put these broadcasts on the air so you can watch, even with some fans in the stands. A lot of people limited to just watching at home, so thanks to Shirt Circuit and CrossFit, as well as Synergy Solutions. Also want to thank Northwest Dental, offering our community unique personalized care in a relaxed and safe environment. Northwest Dental and Even Flow Plumbing, a family-owned and operated company providing quick, reliable services from minor plumbing repairs and drain cleaning to whole house repipes in the Mid-Willamette Valley area. Please call 541-738-8853 for all your plumbing needs. Thanks again for tuning in. With Corvallis winning 3-2 for Ryan Johnson and Tony Vandermeer, I'm Josh Warden. You've been watching Mid-Willamette Conference Soccer on Oregon Sports Beat. So long, everybody.